don't think anything was difficult for Stanley. He
Hmm.
had this tremendous confidence. And if he hadn't, I don't think he could have worked with Lucien Ballard as he had.
The cameraman was Lucien Ballard. And Lucien had, I believe, won an Academy Award, was regarded as one of the top dozen or so photographers in the business, and was a particularly stylish fellow. Married to Merle Oberon, a classic example of the old-style cinematographer.
Stanley really had done his own photography on the two films that he had done previously, so he knew exactly what he wanted. And I think that Lucien Ballard kind of resented this young fellow from New York.
The first shot of the picture, first day, first shot, Stanley set up a shot. It was quite complex. It was a long dolly shot. And he's lined it up specifically with a 25mm lens. And he set it up and turned it over to Lucien. And Lucien said, fine, and began the elaborate business of lighting and setting a dolly track and so on. And Stanley went over to talk to Jimmy or do something and looked back sort of over his shoulder and noticed that the dolly track was much further away from where he had set the camera. He said to Lucien, what are you doing, Lucien? I put the camera here. You're pulling it way back. Why haven't you put it where I've asked for it? He said, well, I haven't changed anything. I'm using a 50mm lens to give you precisely the same coverage that you've asked for, but it's with the 50. And I've used the 50 because it makes my job a lot easier and it'll go a lot faster. And Stanley listened to this and said, but what about the change in perspective that occurs? He said, well, that really doesn't matter that much. That particular piece of information, of course, is dead wrong. The perspective changes. It's a different shot. And Stanley was aware that Lucien was simply bullying past him, but also what particularly nettled him was the assumption that he wouldn't understand this or wouldn't care about it. And Stanley said, put the camera where I told you with the lens that I asked for, or get off the set and don't come back. Said it very quietly, very softly, and there was a look between them, and Lucien changed the setup and moved the camera where it had to be, and there was never an argument again about anything.